The morning sun was just beginning to rise over the Hartley estate in Connecticut. Marcus Webb stood in the massive garage, a soft cloth in his hand as he polished the hood of a vintage Rolls-Royce. The car gleamed under the fluorescent lights, its silver paint reflecting his careful work. Marcus took pride in this. He always had. He was 48 years old and had been working for the Hartley family for 12 years. 12 long years of waking up early, driving the family to their appointments, and caring for their collection of expensive cars. Marcus treated each vehicle like it was his own child. He knew every sound each engine made, every quirk in their systems, every detail that made them special. The garage was his kingdom. 6 luxury cars sat in perfect rows, each one worth more than most people earned in several years. There was the silver Rolls-Royce he was polishing now, a black Mercedes-Benz, a red Ferrari, a blue Bentley, a white Range Rover, and an antique Jaguar that Mr. Hartley loved more than anything. Marcus knew them all by heart. He stepped back to examine his work on the Rolls-Royce. Perfect. Not a single streak or spot remained on the paint. Marcus smiled slightly. This was what he did best. Some people might think driving cars and cleaning them was simple work, but Marcus knew better. These were not ordinary cars. They required knowledge, skill, and patience. He had learned so much over the years, reading manuals late into the night, watching videos about engine repair, talking to mechanics who specialized in vintage automobiles. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from his wife, Teresa. She was a nurse at the local hospital and had just finished her night shift. The message said she was tired but would make breakfast when she got home. Marcus typed back quickly, telling her to rest instead. He would pick up something on the way home after work. Marcus thought about his family as he moved to check the tire pressure on the Mercedes. His daughter Sarah was in her second year at community college, studying to become an engineer. She was smart, so smart it sometimes amazed him. She got that from her mother. Teresa had wanted to become a doctor when she was young, but life had taken her in a different direction. Now she poured all her hopes into Sarah, and Marcus did the same. The college fees were not cheap, even at a community college. Between his salary and Teresa's income, they managed. It was tight sometimes, but they managed. Sarah worked part-time at a bookstore to help out, though Marcus wished she did not have to. He wanted her to focus on her studies. But Sarah was stubborn like him. She insisted on contributing. Marcus heard footsteps approaching the garage. He turned to see James, the estate's groundskeeper. James was an older man, close to retirement, with kind eyes and a weathered face from years of working outdoors. "Morning, Marcus," James said, carrying his coffee mug. "Morning. James, you are here early today. Could say the same about you, but then again you are always here early." James took a sip of his coffee and looked at the Rolls-Royce. "That car looks brand new." "You have magic hands, my friend," Marcus chuckled. "Just patience and elbow grease. More than that, I have seen those fancy mechanics from the city come here. They charge thousands of dollars and do not do half as good a job as you." James shook his head. "The Hartleys are lucky to have you." Marcus did not respond. He appreciated James's words, but he did not work for compliments. He worked because it was his job, and he believed in doing any job well. "Mrs. Hartley seemed upset yesterday," James said carefully. "Did you notice?" Marcus had noticed. Victoria Hartley had been in a terrible mood all week. She had snapped at the housekeepers, complained about the gardeners, and sent back her lunch 3 times because it was not prepared exactly as she wanted. Marcus stayed out of her way when she was like this. He had learned that lesson early in his employment. "She will calm down," Marcus said. "She always does." James did not look convinced, but he did not argue. He finished his coffee and headed back outside to tend to the rose gardens. Marcus returned to his work, unaware that this day would be different from all the others. Around mid-morning, Marcus was under the hood of the Bentley, checking the oil levels, when he heard a car pull into the driveway. He recognized the sound of the engine. It was the Mercedes returning earlier than expected. Mrs. Hartley had left for a charity luncheon in the city just 2 hours ago. She should not be back until late afternoon. Marcus straightened up and wiped his hands on a rag. Something was wrong. He could feel it. The car door slammed. Hard. Then he heard the click of high heels on the concrete, fast and angry. Victoria Hartley appeared in the doorway of the garage. She was a tall woman in her early 50s, always dressed in expensive clothes and jewelry. Today she wore a cream-colored suit and pearls. Her face was red with anger. "Marcus!" she called out sharply. "Yes, Mrs. Hartley." Marcus set down his tools and walked toward her. "Come here now." Marcus approached carefully. He had seen Mrs. Hartley angry before, but something about her expression today made him nervous. Her eyes were cold and hard. "Look at this." She pointed at the side of the Mercedes. "Look at what you did." Marcus bent down to examine the car. There was a scratch on the passenger side door, about 6 inches long. It had cut through the black paint down to the metal underneath. His heart sank. But then he looked closer. The scratch had dirt in it and the edges were rough. This was not fresh. "Mrs. Hartley, this scratch was already here. I filed a report about it 3 days ago." "Do not lie to me." Victoria's voice rose. "I inspected this car myself before I left for my luncheon. There was no scratch. You damaged it while moving it around in this garage, and now you are trying to cover it up." "Ma'am, I promise you I did not scratch this car. The damage was there when you came back from your appointment on Tuesday. I wrote it down in the maintenance log." "I can show you. I do not want to see your log." "I want you to take responsibility for your carelessness." Marcus took a deep breath. He had to stay calm. "Mrs. Hartley, please. If you check the log, you will see—" "But are you arguing with me?" Victoria stepped closer, her face inches from his. "After 12 years, I thought you understood your place here. I thought you knew better than to talk back to me." The words stung. Marcus felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice level. "I am not arguing, ma'am. I am just trying to explain what happened. What happened is that you were careless. What happened is that you damaged a $60,000 vehicle and then tried to lie about it." Victoria crossed her arms. "I have been too lenient with you, Marcus. Too trusting. That was my mistake. Mrs. Hartley, please let me show you the maintenance log. It has the date and time." "Enough!" Victoria held up her hand. "I do not want to hear any more excuses. I have had enough of your incompetence." Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. He knew what was coming. "You are fired, Marcus. Effective immediately. I want you to collect your things and leave my property within the hour." The words hit him like a physical blow. Fired. After 12 years. After countless early mornings and late nights. After caring for these cars like they were priceless treasures. After never missing a day of work. Never being late, never complaining. "Mrs. Hartley, please reconsider. I have been loyal to your family." "Quite loyal?" Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is it loyal to damage my property and lie about it?" "I should have known better than to trust." "Well, never mind. The decision is made. You are dismissed." Marcus heard what she did not say. He saw it in her eyes, in the curl of her lip. This was not really about the scratch. Maybe it had never been about his work at all. The realization made him feel sick. "What about a reference?" Marcus asked quietly. "I will need one to find another job." "A reference?" Victoria's eyebrows rose. "After what you did? Absolutely not. Consider yourself fortunate that I am not pursuing legal action for the damage. But Mrs. Hartley, I have a family. My daughter is in college. That is not my concern. You should have thought about your family before you damaged my car." Victoria turned to walk away, then paused. "And Marcus, do not bother saying goodbye to anyone. Just gather your belongings and go. I will have security escort you out if necessary." She walked away, her heels clicking on the concrete. Marcus stood there, unable to move for a moment. 12 years. Gone in an instant. And for something he did not even do. His hands shook as he walked to the small office at the back of the garage where he kept his personal items. There was not much. A change of clothes in case he got dirty working on the cars. His lunchbox. A photo of Teresa and Sarah that he kept on the desk. A few books about car maintenance. A coffee mug that Sarah had given him for Father's Day 3 years ago. He packed everything into a cardboard box. His movements were mechanical, automatic. He felt numb. As Marcus walked through the garage one last time, he paused by each car. The Rolls-Royce he had just polished. The Bentley he had been checking. The antique Jaguar that needed its oil changed next week. Who would take care of them now? Who would notice when the Ferrari's engine sounded slightly off? Or when the Range Rover's brakes needed adjustment? He shook his head. It did not matter anymore. These were not his responsibility now. Marcus stepped out of the garage into the bright sunlight. Other staff members were scattered around the estate working on their various tasks. Maria, one of the housekeepers, saw him carrying the box. Her eyes widened and she started to walk toward him, but Marcus shook his head slightly. He could not talk about it right now. If he tried to speak, he might break down, and he would not give Victoria Hartley that satisfaction. James was pruning the rose bushes near the driveway. When he saw Marcus, he set down his shears and hurried over. "Marcus, what is happening? Why do you have that box?" "I have been let go, James." "What? Why? Does it matter?" Marcus tried to smile but could not quite manage it. "Take care of yourself, my friend. This is not right. Mr. Hartley would never—" "Mr. Hartley is not here. The family patriarch was traveling in Europe on business and would not return for another 2 weeks. Marcus knew that if Mr. Hartley had been home, things might have gone differently. The older man had always treated Marcus with respect, had always appreciated his work. But Mr. Hartley was not here, and his wife had absolute authority in his absence. Marcus walked to his own car, an old Honda that he had kept running for 15 years. He put the box in the passenger seat and sat behind the wheel. For a long moment, he just stared at the mansion in his rearview mirror. 12 years of his life, and it ended like this. He thought about Teresa, about how worried she would be when he told her. He thought about Sarah, about the college fees due next month. He thought about the bills, the mortgage, the careful budget they maintained that depended on both incomes. But mostly, Marcus thought about the injustice of it all. He had done nothing wrong, nothing. And yet he was being punished, dismissed, thrown away like he meant nothing. Marcus started the car and drove away from the Hartley estate. He did not look back. He could not. If he did, he might see Mrs. Hartley watching from a window, satisfied with what she had done. Or worse, he might see the other staff members, good people who had become his friends over the years, watching him leave and knowing they could do nothing to help. The drive home took 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. Marcus's mind raced with questions. How would he tell Teresa? How would they pay their bills? What kind of job could he find without a reference from his most recent employer? 12 years at one job showed stability, but only if someone was willing to confirm it. When he pulled into the driveway of his modest home, Teresa's car was already there. She must have gone straight to bed after her shift. Marcus sat in his car for a few minutes, gathering his courage. Then he picked up the box and went inside. The house was quiet. Teresa was probably asleep upstairs. Marcus set the box on the kitchen table and sat down, his head in his hands. For the first time since Victoria Hartley had fired him, he let himself feel the full weight of what had happened. He had been humiliated, disrespected, cast aside without a second thought. And the worst part was knowing that his skill, his dedication, his 12 years of loyal service had meant nothing in the end. Nothing at all. Marcus heard footsteps on the stairs. Teresa appeared in the doorway wearing her pajamas, her hair pulled back. She had been asleep, but she was awake now, concern written all over her face. "Marcus, you are home early. What is wrong?" He looked up at his wife, the woman who had stood by him for 22 years through good times and bad. And he told her everything. Teresa listened without interrupting. When he finished, she walked over and wrapped her arms around him. She did not say it would be okay. She did not make empty promises. She just held him, and for now that was enough. Outside, the afternoon sun continued to shine. Life went on. The world did not stop because Marcus Webb had lost his job. But in that moment, sitting in his kitchen with his wife's arms around him, Marcus felt like his world had stopped completely. He did not know it yet, but this ending was also a beginning. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives crack us open and show us who we really are. Sometimes being pushed out of a comfortable place forces us to discover our true potential. But Marcus did not know any of that yet. All he knew was that he had been wronged, and he did not know how to make it right. All he knew was that tomorrow he would have to start over, and he had no idea where to begin. The only thing he did know, as he sat there with Teresa, was that he would not give up. He could not. His family depended on him. His daughter's future depended on him. So he would find a way forward, even if he could not see the path yet. Marcus Webb had been knocked down, but he was not knocked out. Not yet, not ever. The first week after losing his job was the hardest. Marcus spent his days searching for work online, filling out applications and making phone calls. He applied for every driving position he could find. Chauffeur jobs, delivery driver positions, even taxi services. But the same problem came up again and again. Can you provide a reference from your most recent employer? The question haunted him. Marcus would explain that he had worked for the Hartley family for 12 years, but when potential employers tried to contact them for a reference, they got nothing. Victoria Hartley had made sure of that. She had instructed her staff not to provide any information about Marcus's employment. It was like his 12 years there had been erased. Some employers did not even call him back after hearing he had no reference. Others brought him in for interviews but chose someone else. Marcus could see it in their eyes. They wondered what he had done wrong. Why would someone work somewhere for 12 years and leave with no reference? There had to be a reason, they thought. There had to be something wrong with him. Marcus tried to explain what had happened, but it always sounded like excuses. Nobody wanted to hear about an unfair boss or a scratch on a car. They just saw a middle-aged man with no proof of his skills and no one willing to vouch for him. The rejection hurt. Each time someone said no, Marcus felt a little smaller. He had never realized how much of his identity was tied to his work. He had been proud to be the Hartley family's driver. Now he was just another unemployed man searching for any job he could find. Money became tight quickly. Marcus had some savings, but not enough to last long. Teresa picked up extra shifts at the hospital, working nights and weekends. She never complained, but Marcus could see the exhaustion in her face. Dark circles appeared under her eyes. She moved slower, her shoulders always tight with tension. Sarah found out what had happened when she came home from college for a weekend visit. Marcus had not wanted to tell her. He wanted to protect her from worry, to let her focus on her studies. But Sarah was smart. She noticed things. "Dad, why are you home so much?" she asked one Saturday morning. "Did something happen at work?" Marcus and Teresa exchanged glances. There was no point in lying. Sarah would find out eventually. They sat her down and explained everything. Sarah listened with a serious expression, her jaw getting tighter as the story went on. When they finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "That is not fair," she finally said. "You did nothing wrong." "Life is not always fair, sweetheart," Marcus said gently. "I should drop out of college. I can work full-time and help with the bills." "Absolutely not," Teresa said firmly. "Your education is important, but we cannot afford what we will manage," Marcus interrupted. "Your mother and I will figure it out. You just focus on your studies. That is what matters." Sarah looked like she wanted to argue, but she saw the determination in her parents' faces. Instead, she hugged her father tightly. "You are the best dad," she whispered. "And that woman is going to regret what she did to you." Marcus wished he could believe that, but he doubted Victoria Hartley would give him a second thought. Rich people like her did not spend time thinking about the people they hurt. They just moved on to the next thing. 3 weeks passed with no luck. Marcus had applied to over 50 jobs and gotten nowhere. His savings were running out. He started looking at positions that had nothing to do with driving. Warehouse work, store clerk positions, security guard jobs, anything that would bring in money. One afternoon, Marcus was sitting at his kitchen table with his laptop scrolling through job listings when his phone rang. The caller ID showed a name he had not seen in years, James Patterson. Not the groundskeeper from the Hartley estate. This was a different James, an old friend from Marcus's younger days. "James?" Marcus answered. "It has been forever. How are you?" "I am good, Marcus. Listen, I heard through the grapevine that you are looking for work. Is that true?" Marcus felt embarrassed. Bad news traveled fast, apparently. "Yeah, that is true. How did you hear?" "My cousin works as a gardener for some rich family in your area. He mentioned that you left the Hartleys. I was surprised. I thought you loved that job." "I did. It just did not work out." Marcus did not want to go into details. "Well, I might have something for you. Can you come by my shop tomorrow? I want to talk to you about a project." James owned a small automotive restoration shop about 30 miles away. Marcus had visited it once or twice years ago, back when they used to meet up more regularly. It was a modest place, nothing fancy, but James did good work. "What kind of project?" Marcus asked. "I will explain tomorrow. Just come by around 10 if you can." "Trust me, you are going to want to hear this," Marcus agreed. After they hung up, he felt a small spark of hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe this was the break he needed. The next morning, Marcus drove to James's shop. It was located in an older part of town, in a building that had probably been there for 50 years. The sign outside said, "Patterson's Auto Restoration" in faded letters. Marcus parked and went inside. The shop smelled like motor oil and metal. 2 cars were up on lifts, and tools covered every available surface. James emerged from the back, wiping his hands on a greasy rag. He was a big man with a full beard and kind eyes. "Marcus, good to see you, man." James pulled him into a hug. "Thanks for coming." "Of course. You said you had a project?" "I do. Come here, let me show you something." James led Marcus to the far corner of the shop where a car sat covered with a tarp. He pulled the tarp off with a dramatic flourish, revealing a beautiful but damaged Ferrari. It was a 1961 model. Red paint faded and scratched, chrome dulled with age, but Marcus could see the potential underneath. "Wow," Marcus breathed. "This is a 250 GT. You know your Ferraris." James grinned. "A client brought this in 6 months ago. He wants a full restoration. But Marcus, I am in over my head. I know classic American cars pretty well, but these Italian beauties? They are a different beast. I need someone who really understands them." Marcus walked around the Ferrari slowly, examining every detail. He saw rust that needed to be removed, paint that needed to be redone, an engine that probably needed to be completely rebuilt. But he also saw what it could become. This car was a masterpiece, and with the right care it could be magnificent again. "Why are you thinking of me?" Marcus asked. "Because I remember you talking about the cars you worked on for the Hartleys. Vintage Rolls-Royces, classic Jaguars, luxury vehicles from all over the world. You know this stuff, Marcus. You really know it. I was mostly a driver. I just maintained the cars. Do not sell yourself short. The things you described doing? That was not just maintenance. That was craftsmanship. You understand these machines." James put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "I need help. This client is paying good money for this restoration, but I cannot do it alone. If you help me with this project, I will split the fee with you 50-50. Marcus's mind raced. This was not what he had expected. He had thought maybe James needed a part-time assistant or someone to run errands. But this was real work. Important work. Work that mattered. "How much time do we have?" Marcus asked. "Client wants it done in 4 months. I know it is tight, but I think we can do it if we both work on it full-time. James, I need to be honest with you. I need steady income. My family is depending on me. If I take on a project that only lasts 4 months, I know. But listen, if we do this right, if we restore this Ferrari to its full glory, word is going to spread. Collectors talk to each other. They will see this work, and they will want us to work on their cars too. This could be the start of something bigger." Marcus wanted to believe him, but he had been disappointed so many times in the past few weeks. What if it does not work out? What if nobody else comes? Then we are in the same boat we are in now. "But Marcus, I have a feeling about this. You have skills that people need. Real skills. Not just driving skills. You know how to care for these incredible machines. That knowledge is valuable." Marcus looked at the Ferrari again. He remembered the first time he had worked on a vintage car at the Hartley estate. It had been the antique Jaguar, and it had been making a strange noise in the engine. Marcus had spent hours researching the problem, reading old manuals, watching videos. When he finally figured it out and fixed it, Mr. Hartley had been amazed. "You are an artist," he had said. Marcus had never forgotten that moment. "Okay," Marcus said. "I will do it. Let us restore this beauty." James's face broke into a huge smile. "That is what I wanted to hear. When can you start?" "How about right now?" They shook hands, and Marcus felt something shift inside him. For weeks he had felt lost and worthless, but standing here in this shop, looking at this incredible car, he felt something else. He felt purpose. The first thing Marcus did was make a complete list of everything that needed to be done. The Ferrari required more work than he had initially thought. The engine had to be completely disassembled, cleaned, and rebuilt. The body needed extensive rust removal and paintwork. The interior was damaged and would need to be reupholstered. The chrome had to be replated. Every system had to be checked and restored. It was overwhelming, but Marcus approached it methodically. He broke the project down into smaller tasks, creating a timeline for each one. James watched him work with growing respect. "You really do know what you're doing," James said. "I learned from the best cars in the world," Marcus replied. "Now I get to put that knowledge to use." They worked together every day, starting early in the morning and often staying late into the evening. Marcus's hands remembered skills he had developed over years of careful maintenance. But more than that, he discovered new abilities he had not known he possessed. When you are just maintaining someone else's cars, you learn to be careful and precise. But when you are restoring a masterpiece, you learn to be an artist. 2 weeks into the project, Marcus was working on the Ferrari's engine when his phone rang. It was Teresa. "Marcus, something happened," Sarah called. "The college is asking for next semester's payment. It is due in 2 weeks." Marcus's heart sank. He had known this was coming, but he had been so focused on the Ferrari that he had pushed it to the back of his mind. The payment was $5,000. They did not have $5,000. "How much do we have in savings?" he asked. "About $2,000. "That is it." Marcus closed his eyes. "I will figure something out. Maybe I can get a loan. Banks are not going to give us a loan when you have been unemployed for over a month. Then I will find another way. Sarah is not dropping out of college. I will make sure of it." After he hung up, Marcus stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had thought working on the Ferrari would solve his problems, but it would be months before he saw any real money from it. What was he supposed to do until then? James came over concerned. "Everything okay?" Marcus explained the situation. James listened, then scratched his beard thoughtfully. "What if I gave you an advance on your share of the Ferrari payment?" "James, I cannot ask you to do that." "You are not asking. I'm offering. Look, I need you to finish this project. If you are stressed about money and your daughter's college, you cannot focus. Let me help." Marcus felt emotion welling up in his chest. After weeks of rejection and closed doors, here was someone offering help without being asked. "I will pay you back. I know you will. We are partners now, remember?" With the advance from James, Marcus was able to pay Sarah's college fees. The relief was enormous. Teresa cried when he told her, and Sarah called to thank him, her voice full of gratitude and love. But something else happened too. Word began to spread about the Ferrari restoration. A few collectors who were friends with James's client stopped by the shop to see the progress. They watched Marcus work with fascination, asking questions about his techniques and his knowledge of vintage vehicles. One man, a collector named Robert Chen, was particularly impressed. He owned several classic cars and had been looking for someone to maintain them properly. "Where did you learn to work on vintage Ferraris?" Robert asked. "I spent 12 years caring for a private collection of luxury and vintage cars," Marcus explained. "You learn a lot when you work with vehicles like that every day. Are you taking on other clients?" "I have a 1967 Aston Martin that needs some attention." Marcus glanced at James, who nodded encouragingly. "I could look at it," Marcus said carefully. "Great. Can you come by my place this weekend?" After Robert left, James turned to Marcus with a grin. "See? I told you." Word is spreading already. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Maybe James had been right. Maybe this was the start of something bigger. Over the next few weeks, 3 more collectors contacted Marcus. Each one had heard about his work on the Ferrari or knew someone who had. Each one wanted his services. Marcus felt like he was drowning in opportunity after weeks of having nothing. He and James worked out an arrangement. Marcus would continue working on the Ferrari, but he could also take on side projects in the shop during evenings and weekends. James would only take a small fee for use of the space and equipment. The rest of the money would go to Marcus. For the first time since being fired, Marcus began to make decent money again. It was not as stable as his old job had been, but it was something. More importantly, it was work that challenged him and made him proud. One evening, Marcus was working alone in the shop, carefully polishing the Ferrari's newly painted body, when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Is this Marcus Webb?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, this is Marcus. My name is Patricia Ashford. I am calling because Robert Chen gave me your number. He said you are a master with vintage automobiles." "I do not know about master," Marcus said modestly, "but I know my way around them. I have a 1955 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. It has been in my family for 40 years, and it needs restoration work. Everyone I have talked to wants to ship it to Germany or charges ridiculous amounts. Robert said you might be able to help. A Gullwing." Marcus had only seen one in person once at the Hartley estate. Mr. Hartley's friend had brought one to show off. It was one of the most beautiful cars ever made. "I would be honored to look at it," Marcus said. "Wonderful. Can you come to my home next Tuesday?" Marcus agreed and took down her address. After he hung up, he realized he was smiling. A real, genuine smile. The kind he had not felt in a long time. He thought about Victoria Hartley and how she had thrown him away like garbage. He thought about how hopeless he had felt just a few weeks ago, and then he looked at the Ferrari in front of him, at the shop around him, at the list of clients who wanted his help. Maybe being fired was the worst thing that had ever happened to him. Or maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something better, something where his skills were valued, where his knowledge mattered, where he was not just the hired help but a respected craftsman. Marcus did not know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time he felt hope. Real hope, and that was worth more than any paycheck from the Hartley family could ever be. 6 months had passed since Marcus lost his job at the Hartley estate. His life had changed so much that sometimes he had to stop and remind himself it was real. The scared, desperate man who had sat in his kitchen wondering how to pay bills seemed like a different person now. The Ferrari restoration project had been completed 2 months ago, and the result was stunning. When the client came to pick it up, he had walked around the car 3 times without saying a word, just staring. Then he had turned to Marcus with tears in his eyes. "This is better than I ever imagined," the man had said. "You did not just fix this car. You brought it back to life." That client had told 10 friends. Those 10 friends had told more. Now Marcus had a waiting list of people wanting his services. Some wanted full restorations. Others just wanted regular maintenance for their vintage cars. All of them were willing to pay well for someone who truly understood these vehicles. James had offered Marcus a full partnership in the business. "You are bringing in more clients than I ever did on my own," James had said. "We should be equal partners." Marcus had accepted gratefully. The shop was renamed Patterson & Webb Auto Restoration. Seeing his name on that sign made Marcus prouder than he had ever felt working at the Hartley estate. The money was good now. Not just good. It was better than what Marcus had made as a driver. He had paid back James's advance within the first 2 months. Sarah's college fees were no longer a source of stress. Teresa had been able to cut back on her extra shifts and was sleeping better. They had even started saving money again. But the best part was not the money. It was the respect. When people came to the shop, they did not treat Marcus like hired help. They treated him like an expert. They asked for his advice. They listened when he talked. They valued his opinions. Marcus had also started mentoring. A young man named David, fresh out of technical school, had come looking for work. Marcus saw himself in David, eager to learn, willing to work hard, but needing someone to teach him. Marcus hired him and began showing him everything he knew. "Why are you teaching me all this?" David asked one day. "Are you not worried I will take your clients?" Marcus smiled. "There is enough work for everyone. Besides, someone taught me once. Now I am teaching you. That is how knowledge should work." In truth, much of what Marcus knew was self-taught. He had learned by reading, watching, doing, and making mistakes. But people at the Hartley estate had helped him too. Especially Mr. Hartley himself, who had always encouraged Marcus to learn more about the cars he cared for. Thinking of Mr. Hartley made Marcus wonder how things were at the estate. He had not heard anything about the family in months. Part of him was curious, but mostly he was just focused on his own life now. The past was the past. Meanwhile, at the Hartley estate, things were not going well. Victoria had hired 3 different drivers since firing Marcus. The first one lasted 2 weeks before quitting. He said the job expectations were unreasonable. The second one stayed a month but scratched the Range Rover backing it out of the garage. Victoria fired him immediately. The third driver was competent enough at driving, but knew nothing about maintaining the cars. The vehicles began to show signs of neglect. The Rolls-Royce developed an oil leak that the new driver did not notice until it had caused engine damage. The Ferrari's battery died because nobody remembered to start it regularly and keep it charged. The Bentley's leather seats developed cracks because they were not being properly conditioned. Victoria noticed these problems but did not fully understand their significance. She thought cars just needed fuel and washing. She did not realize the extensive care that Marcus had provided every single day. All those hours he had spent checking tire pressure, monitoring fluid levels, listening for unusual sounds, maintaining the delicate balance that kept each vehicle in perfect condition. When the Rolls-Royce broke down completely, Victoria called her usual mechanic. He came out, looked at the engine, and shook his head. "Mrs. Hartley, this damage could have been prevented. The oil leak has been going on for weeks. Did nobody notice?" "My driver should have noticed," Victoria snapped. "With all respect, ma'am, maintaining a car like this requires expertise. You need someone who knows vintage vehicles inside and out. I had someone like that. I had to let him go. The mechanic raised his eyebrows but said nothing. It was not his place to comment. He gave Victoria an estimate for the repairs. $8,000. She nearly fainted. Mr. Hartley returned from Europe that same week. He had been gone for 3 months this time, overseeing the opening of new offices in London and Paris. When he arrived home, he immediately noticed something was wrong. "Where's Marcus?" he asked Victoria. "I want to say hello." Victoria shifted uncomfortably. "Marcus no longer works here." "What? Why not? What happened?" "He damaged the Mercedes and lied about it. I had no choice but to let him go." Mr. Hartley frowned. "That does not sound like Marcus." "Are you sure?" "Of course I am sure. Do you think I would fire someone without good reason?" Mr. Hartley did not answer immediately. He knew his wife could be impulsive when she was angry, but he had been away and the decision had already been made. There was nothing he could do about it now. A few days later, Mr. Hartley went out to the garage to check on his beloved Jaguar. What he saw shocked him. The car was dusty. The chrome had water spots. When he opened the hood, he found the engine bay had not been cleaned in months. This was not how Marcus would have kept it. He found the new driver and asked him about the maintenance schedule. "Maintenance schedule?" The driver repeated blankly. "Yes, the regular maintenance that needs to be done on each vehicle. Oil changes, fluid checks, tire rotations." "Oh, I just drive them, sir." "Nobody told me about maintenance." Mr. Hartley felt his heart sink. He went back into the house and found Victoria in her sitting room. "The cars are in terrible condition," he said. "Marcus kept detailed maintenance logs for every vehicle." "Does the new driver have those logs?" "I do not know what you are talking about." Marcus documented everything. Every oil change, every issue, every repair. Those logs were invaluable. "Where are they?" Victoria waved her hand dismissively. "I threw all that away when he left. It was just his personal notes. Those notes represented 12 years of knowledge about our vehicles. Victoria, do you have any idea what you have done?" "Do not take that tone with me. I did what I had to do." Mr. Hartley walked out before he said something he would regret. His wife could be many things, but he had never known her to be so foolish. Marcus had been more than a driver. He had been a caretaker, an expert, someone who had treated their vehicles like they were precious works of art. And Victoria had thrown him away over a scratch that probably was not even his fault. The next few weeks proved even more challenging. The Bentley started making a strange noise that nobody could diagnose. A mechanic came out but could not figure out what was wrong. "These old Bentleys can be tricky," he said. "You really need someone who specializes in them." Mr. Hartley asked around at his country club, trying to find someone who could help. One of his friends, Robert Chen, overheard the conversation. "You need someone for vintage car maintenance?" Robert asked, desperately. "We used to have an excellent man, but my wife let him go." "What was his name?" "Marcus Webb, best driver and car specialist I ever had." Robert's face lit up. "Marcus Webb? I know Marcus. He has been doing work for me for months now. He is incredible. He restored my Aston Martin to perfect condition." Mr. Hartley stared at him. "Marcus is doing restoration work?" "Oh yes, he has his own business now with a partner. They have a shop about 30 miles from here. Everyone in the collector community is talking about them. Marcus is considered one of the best in the region." Mr. Hartley felt a mix of emotions. He was happy that Marcus was doing well, but he was also angry with his wife for driving away such a valuable person. And he was frustrated that his own cars were suffering because of it. "Do you think he would be willing to come back?" Mr. Hartley asked. Robert shrugged. "I doubt it. He seems very happy with what he is doing now. Plus, he has more work than he can handle. People are waiting months to get on his schedule." That evening, Mr. Hartley told Victoria what he had learned. She tried to act like it did not matter, but he could see the surprise in her eyes. "So he got lucky and found a job," she said. "Good for him." "It is more than a job, Victoria. He has built a reputation. He is respected. People seek him out specifically." "I am sure you are exaggerating," but Mr. Hartley was not exaggerating. He started asking around more, and everywhere he went, he heard the same thing. Marcus Webb was the man to see for vintage and luxury automobiles. His knowledge was extensive. His work was flawless. His prices were fair. One afternoon, Mr. Hartley attended a car show in Greenwich. It was an annual event that brought together collectors from all over Connecticut and neighboring states. The show featured rare and beautiful vehicles. Everything from antique Fords to modern Lamborghinis. Mr. Hartley wandered through the show, admiring the cars. He stopped in front of a stunning 1961 Ferrari 250 GT, painted in perfect red with chrome that gleamed like mirrors. A small plaque next to it said, "Restored by Patterson and Webb Auto Restoration." A man standing nearby saw Mr. Hartley looking at the plaque. "Beautiful work, is it not?" "Yes, very impressive. That is my car. I bought it in terrible condition 6 months ago. Marcus Webb and his partner brought it back to life. Best money I ever spent." "Marcus Webb did this?" "He did most of it, yes." "The man is an artist. Do you see that engine bay?" The owner opened the hood to reveal an immaculately clean and organized engine. Marcus rebuilt this engine by hand. Every part is either original or period correct. He sourced pieces from all over the world. His attention to detail is incredible. Mr. Hartley stared at the engine. He thought about all the times he had found Marcus in the garage, bent over an engine, his hands moving with careful precision. He had always known Marcus was skilled, but he had never fully appreciated the depth of that skill. As he walked through the rest of the car show, Mr. Hartley saw 3 more vehicles that had been restored or maintained by Patterson and Webb. Each one was perfect. Each owner spoke about Marcus with the same reverence, calling him a master craftsman and expert, someone who truly understood these magnificent machines. Victoria had come to the car show with him, though she seemed bored by the whole thing. Mr. Hartley pulled her aside near the end of the day. "Do you see these cars?" He gestured around them. 4 of them were worked on by Marcus. "The man you fired, the man you said was incompetent." Victoria looked uncomfortable, so he learned some new skills. "What does that have to do with us?" "It has everything to do with us. Our cars are falling apart because we do not have anyone with his knowledge. Meanwhile, he has become one of the most sought-after specialists in the region. Do you understand what we lost? I did what I thought was right at the time." "No, Victoria. You did what your pride told you to do, and now we are paying the price." Mr. Hartley walked away, leaving his wife standing alone among the beautiful cars. For the first time, Victoria felt a small seed of doubt. Had she made a mistake? A week later, the Rolls-Royce broke down again. The repairs from before had not fixed all the problems. The mechanic said the car needed extensive work, possibly even a new engine. The cost would be enormous. Victoria remembered Marcus polishing that same Rolls-Royce every morning, treating it like it was the most precious thing in the world. She remembered how the car had always run perfectly under his care, how it had never given them a single problem in all the years he had maintained it. She thought about calling Marcus, asking him to come back. But her pride would not let her. She had fired him. She had refused to give him a reference. She had treated him terribly. Why would he even consider helping her now? Instead, Victoria tried to find other specialists, but everyone she called either had a waiting list or was not experienced enough with vehicles of that caliber. One mechanic suggested she contact Marcus Webb. "He is the best in the area for vintage luxury cars," the mechanic said. "I am aware of who Marcus Webb is," Victoria replied coldly. After she hung up, she sat in her sitting room, staring at the oil painting of her family that hung above the fireplace. She thought about her conversation with the mechanic. Even strangers recognized Marcus's expertise now. The man she had dismissed as just a driver had become someone that professionals recommended. Meanwhile, Marcus was at the shop, working on a beautiful 1955 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. The restoration was going well, and the owner, Patricia Ashford, stopped by regularly to check on progress. She always brought coffee and pastries and seemed genuinely interested in the work. "My father bought this car the year I was born," Patricia told Marcus during one visit. "It was his pride and joy. After he passed away, I could not bear to sell it, but I did not know how to care for it properly. I am so grateful to have found you." "It is an honor to work on a car with such history," Marcus said. "Where did you learn all this? Did you study automotive engineering?" Marcus smiled. "No formal training. I learned by doing. I spent 12 years caring for a collection of luxury and vintage cars. Every day was a learning experience. Well, whoever owned that collection was lucky to have you." Marcus did not respond. He just focused on his work, carefully restoring each part of the Gullwing to its original glory. That evening, after Patricia left, James came over with 2 bottles of beer. "We need to celebrate," James said. "Celebrate what?" "We just got featured in Luxury Auto magazine. They are doing an article about top restoration shops in the Northeast, and we made the list. Marcus took the bottle, stunned. Are you serious? Dead serious. The writer called me yesterday. He wants to interview both of us and take photos of the shop and our current projects. This is big, Marcus. Really big. They clinked their bottles together. Marcus thought about his journey from that terrible day when Victoria had fired him to this moment. 6 months. In just 6 months, his entire life had transformed. He thought about calling Mr. Hartley to let him know about the magazine feature. The older man had always been kind to him, had always appreciated his work. But Marcus decided against it. That chapter of his life was closed. He was writing a new chapter now, and it was turning out better than he ever could have imagined. The magazine article came out 3 weeks later. It featured a full-page photo of Marcus working on the gull wing, his face serious and focused. The article described him as a master craftsman with an intuitive understanding of automotive excellence and one of the region's best-kept secrets. After the article was published, the shop's phone would not stop ringing. New clients called every day. Some were from nearby towns. Others were from different states willing to ship their cars to Connecticut just to have Marcus work on them. Marcus hired 2 more assistants to help with the increased workload. The shop was thriving. His family was secure. His daughter was excelling in college. Teresa had started taking pottery classes in her free time, something she had always wanted to do but never had the time or money for. Life was good. Better than good. It was fulfilling in a way Marcus had never experienced before. He was not just working for someone else anymore. He was building something of his own, something that mattered, something that would last. And Victoria Hartley? She was about to learn a very difficult lesson about the value of the people we dismiss. The invitation arrived on expensive cream-colored paper with gold embossing. Victoria Hartley was invited to the annual Greenwich Charity Gala, the social event of the season. The gala raised money for children's hospitals and always attracted the wealthiest families from Connecticut and neighboring states. Victoria never missed it. This year she had planned to arrive in the vintage Rolls-Royce. It would have been perfect. The car's elegant silver paint and classic lines always turned heads. But the Rolls-Royce was still in the shop, waiting for parts that had to be shipped from England. The mechanic said it would be another 3 weeks at least. Victoria considered taking the Bentley instead, but it had that strange noise that nobody could fix. The Mercedes had the scratch she had blamed Marcus for, which now seemed to mock her every time she saw it. The Ferrari was too flashy for a charity event. That left the Range Rover, which was nice but not special enough for an entrance. She called Mr. Hartley into her sitting room. He was reading the newspaper as he did every morning after breakfast. "We have a problem," Victoria announced. "What kind of problem?" "The gala is in 2 weeks. I cannot arrive in the Range Rover, it is too ordinary." Mr. Hartley looked at her over his reading glasses. "Then take one of the other cars. The Rolls-Royce is still broken. The Bentley sounds like it is dying. The Ferrari is too much. The Mercedes has that scratch." "The scratch you blamed Marcus for?" Victoria ignored the comment. "I need the Rolls-Royce fixed before the gala. Can you call the mechanic and tell him to hurry?" "Victoria, vintage car parts cannot be rushed. They have to be sourced from specific suppliers. The mechanic is doing his best. There must be someone who can fix it faster." Mr. Hartley folded his newspaper carefully. "There is someone who could probably fix it faster. Someone who knows that Rolls-Royce better than anyone else in the state. But you fired him." Victoria's face flushed. "Marcus cannot be the only person who knows how to fix a car. He is not the only person, but he is the best person, at least for our cars. He knew every vehicle in our collection inside and out. He would have seen this problem coming months ago and prevented it." "You are being dramatic, am I? How many drivers have we gone through since Marcus left? How much money have we spent on repairs that should never have been necessary? How many times have our cars broken down?" Mr. Hartley stood up. "I told you firing him was a mistake. Now we are living with the consequences." He left the room, leaving Victoria alone with her thoughts. She hated to admit it, but her husband was right. The cars had never been a problem when Marcus worked for them. Now they were a constant source of frustration and expense. Victoria went to her home office and opened her laptop. She typed Marcus Webb Auto Restoration into the search engine. Pages of results appeared. Reviews from satisfied clients. Photos of beautiful restored cars. Articles about his expertise. a website for Patterson and Webb Auto Restoration that showed a waiting list of 6 months for new clients. She clicked on the luxury auto magazine article Mr. Hartley had mentioned weeks ago. There was Marcus in a full-page photo, his hands working on a gorgeous silver Mercedes. The article called him a master craftsman. It quoted collectors who said he was the best in the business. It described how he had built his reputation through skill, knowledge, and dedication. Victoria stared at the photo for a long time. This was the same man she had fired 6 months ago. The same man she had refused to give a reference. The same man she had accused of lying and incompetence. How had she been so wrong? The truth was uncomfortable. Victoria had not really fired Marcus because of the scratch. She had fired him because she was angry about other things in her life, and he had been an easy target. Her son's business deal had fallen through. Her daughter had moved across the country and rarely called. Her friends had been gossiping about her at the country club. She had felt powerless and frustrated, and taking it out on Marcus had made her feel powerful again. But that moment of power had cost her dearly. The cars were falling apart. They had spent over $20,000 on repairs in 6 months, and now she had no way to make the entrance she wanted at the gala. Victoria closed the laptop and sat back in her chair. What could she do? She could try to call Marcus and ask for help, but her pride resisted the idea. What would she even say? She had treated him terribly. Why would he help her now? Days passed and the gala drew closer. Victoria became increasingly anxious. She snapped at the household staff, sent back her meals, complained about everything. Mr. Hartley avoided her when he could. Then, one afternoon, Victoria attended a luncheon with some of her friends from the country club. The conversation turned to cars, as it often did among their social circle. "I just got my Aston Martin back from the most wonderful specialist," said Patricia Ashford, a woman Victoria had known for years. "Marcus Webb, have you heard of him?" Victoria nearly choked on her tea. "I have heard the name. He is amazing. Truly gifted. My father's old Mercedes looks better now than it did when it was new. Marcus treated that car like it was a precious work of art. He is expensive, though, is he not?" asked another woman. "Worth every penny," Patricia insisted. "And honestly, his prices are quite reasonable considering the quality of his work. Other specialists charge twice as much and do not achieve half the results." "I heard he has a 6-month waiting list," said another friend. "He does, but he is worth the wait. The man understands these cars on a level that most mechanics never reach. He does not just fix problems. He prevents them. He anticipates them." Victoria listened to her friends praise Marcus for another 20 minutes. Every word was like a small knife. These were the same qualities she had once benefited from when Marcus worked for her, and she had thrown them away. After the luncheon, Victoria sat in her Mercedes in the parking lot, unable to start the engine. She felt something she rarely felt, genuine regret. Not just regret about losing a skilled employee, but regret about how she had treated another human being. Marcus had worked for her faithfully for 12 years, and she had dismissed him cruelly over something that was not even his fault. Victoria drove home slowly, her mind racing. When she arrived at the estate, she found Mr. Hartley in the garage looking sadly at the Rolls-Royce. "The mechanic called," he said. "The parts are delayed another week. The car will not be ready for the gala." Victoria nodded slowly. "I need to tell you something. I was wrong about Marcus. I was wrong to fire him, and I was wrong about why I fired him." Mr. Hartley turned to look at his wife, surprised. Victoria rarely admitted to being wrong about anything. "I know," he said gently. "I want to call him. I want to apologize and ask if he can help with the Rolls-Royce. Victoria, I do not think, I know he will probably say no. I know I do not deserve his help. But I need to try. I need to at least apologize for how I treated him." Mr. Hartley studied his wife's face. He saw something there he had not seen in a long time. Humility. "All right. But please be sincere. Do not just apologize because you need something from him." Victoria found Marcus's business number on the website and stared at it for a long time before dialing. Her hands shook slightly as the phone rang. "Patterson and Webb Auto Restoration, this is Marcus speaking." Victoria's breath caught. His voice was the same, calm and professional, but there was a confidence in it now that had not been there before. "Marcus, this is Victoria Hartley." There was a pause. "Mrs. Hartley, how can I help you?" His tone was polite but cool. "Victoria deserved that. I am calling because..." Because I owe you an apology. The way I treated you when I let you go was inexcusable. You did not deserve that. You had been loyal and skilled for 12 years, and I repaid that with cruelty. I am truly sorry." Another pause. Victoria waited, her heart pounding. "I appreciate you saying that, Mrs. Hartley," Marcus said finally. "That means something. I also wanted to ask, the Rolls-Royce is broken. It needs work before a charity gala I am attending in 2 weeks. I know you have a waiting list, and I know I have no right to ask, but I wondered if you might be able to help." "What is wrong with the car?" Victoria explained the problems as best as she could understand them. Marcus listened without interrupting. "That sounds like the fuel pump and possibly the timing chain," Marcus said. "The Rolls-Royce was due for a timing chain replacement when I left. I had ordered the part, but I guess it never got installed." Of course, Marcus would have known. He had always known. "Can you fix it?" Victoria asked. "I can fix it, Mrs. Hartley, but I need to be honest with you. I am not your employee anymore. I run a business now. If you want me to work on the Rolls-Royce, it will be as a professional service provider, not as your driver. I will charge my standard rates, which are probably higher than what you paid me before." "I understand. Whatever your rates are, I will pay them." "All right. I can come look at the car tomorrow morning. But Mrs. Hartley, I want to be clear about something. I accept your apology and I am willing to help with the car. But I am not interested in coming back to work for you. My life has moved in a different direction." The words stung, but Victoria had expected them. "I understand. Thank you for being willing to help at all." After they hung up, Victoria sat in her office for a long time. She felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief that Marcus had accepted her apology and agreed to help. Sadness that she had lost something valuable that could never be recovered. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the Hartley estate at 9 o'clock. Victoria watched from the window as he pulled up in a nice truck with Patterson and Webb Auto Restoration printed on the side. He was dressed in clean work clothes and carried a professional-looking tool bag. Mr. Hartley went out to greet him, and Victoria saw them shake hands warmly. They talked for a few minutes, and Mr. Hartley laughed at something Marcus said. Victoria felt a pang of jealousy. Her husband had always liked Marcus, and that friendship was still there. Victoria took a deep breath and went out to the garage. Marcus was already examining the Rolls-Royce, his hands moving over the engine with the same careful attention she remembered. "Marcus," she said. He looked up. "Mrs. Hartley, thank you for coming." Of course, there was an awkward silence. Victoria struggled to find words. She had never been good at genuine conversation with staff, or former staff, or whatever Marcus was now. "The garage looks different," Marcus said, filling the silence, "but the cars are the same." "They are not in as good condition as they used to be," Victoria admitted. "I can see that." Marcus pointed to the Bentley. "That noise you mentioned is probably the transmission mount. Easy fix if you catch it early, but if it goes too long, you will need a full transmission rebuild. Can you fix that too? I can look at it while I am here." Marcus spent the next hour examining the Rolls-Royce thoroughly. Victoria and Mr. Hartley both watched from a distance. Finally, Marcus came over with a list of problems. "The fuel pump needs to be replaced, as I thought. The timing chain is stretched and needs to be replaced. There are also some worn gaskets that should be addressed, and someone has been using the wrong type of oil, which has caused some buildup in the engine. Can you fix all of that in 2 weeks?" Victoria asked. "I will have to clear my schedule, but yes, I can do it. However, I need to be honest with you about the cost. Parts and labor for everything I mentioned will be around $8,000. Victoria did not flinch. "That is fine. Whatever it costs. I will need to take the car to my shop. I have all my tools and equipment there." "Of course. Whatever you need." Marcus arranged to have the Rolls-Royce transported to his shop that afternoon. Before he left, Mr. Hartley pulled him aside. "Marcus, it is good to see you doing well. Really well." "Thank you, Mr. Hartley. That means a lot coming from you. I want you to know that I did not support Victoria's decision to let you go. I was traveling at the time, and when I came back and found out what had happened, I was furious. I appreciate that, sir. But honestly, getting fired was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. It forced me to see my own value." Mr. Hartley smiled sadly. "Our loss was the world's gain, it seems." Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus worked on the Rolls-Royce at his shop. He did not rush the job. Every repair was done with precision and care. He replaced the fuel pump and timing chain. He fixed the gaskets and flushed the engine to remove the buildup. He even detailed the interior and polished the exterior until it shone like new. David, his young assistant, watched in awe. "You really love this car, do not you?" "I do," Marcus admitted. "I spent 3 years learning everything about this particular Rolls-Royce. Every quirk, every sound it makes, every detail. It is like seeing an old friend." "Are you going to go back to work for them?" "No, that chapter is closed. But I can still take care of their cars. Just in a different capacity now." When the Rolls-Royce was finished, Marcus called Victoria to let her know. She came to pick it up the next day, driving herself in the Mercedes. When she saw the Rolls-Royce, she gasped. The car looked incredible. Better than she remembered. The silver paint gleamed. The chrome sparkled. When Marcus started the engine, it purred like a contented cat. This is beautiful," Victoria said. "It looks brand new." "I did a little extra work on it," Marcus admitted. "Fixed some small cosmetic issues that had been bothering me for years." Victoria walked around the car slowly, examining every detail. "Marcus, this is exceptional work. Truly exceptional." "Thank you, Mrs. Hartley." She turned to face him. "I realize now what we lost when I fired you. Not just your skills as a driver and mechanic, but your dedication and your care. You treated our cars better than we treated you, and I am ashamed of that." Marcus did not know what to say. He had not expected such honesty from her. "I hope you will consider doing regular maintenance on our vehicles going forward," Victoria continued. "As a client, not as an employee. We would pay your standard rates." "I can do that," Marcus agreed. "I will put you on my schedule. I have a few openings for regular maintenance clients." Victoria paid Marcus's bill without question, even though it was substantial. As she prepared to drive away in the beautiful Rolls-Royce, she turned back one more time. "Marcus, I know this does not change anything, but I am sorry. Really, truly sorry, and I am glad that things worked out well for you." "Thank you, Mrs. Hartley, I appreciate that." Victoria drove away, and Marcus watched her go. James came up beside him. "How do you feel?" James asked. Marcus thought about the question. 6 months ago, he had left this estate feeling worthless and defeated. Now he was returning their car as a respected professional, on his own terms, being paid what he was worth. "I feel good," Marcus said. "Really good." That night, the Hartley family gathered for dinner. Victoria told her husband about picking up the Rolls-Royce and her conversation with Marcus. "He has really become something special," she said. "The way he talked about the car, the pride in his work, the confidence in himself. He is not the same man who worked for us." "He is the same man," Mr. Hartley corrected gently. "We just never saw his full potential. We kept him in a box labeled driver and never looked beyond that." Victoria nodded slowly. "You are right, and that was my failure more than anyone's." The night of the charity gala arrived. Victoria wore a stunning evening gown and her best jewelry. When she stepped out of the house, the Rolls-Royce was waiting, polished and perfect. Mr. Hartley had arranged for a professional driver for the evening, but Victoria found herself wishing Marcus were driving. Not because he was a better driver, but because she wanted to show him that she valued him now in a way she had not before. The gala was held at a beautiful estate in Greenwich. When Victoria arrived in the Rolls-Royce, people stopped and stared. The car was magnificent and everyone wanted to know about it. "It is a 1965 Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud," Victoria explained to a group of admirers. "It was just restored by Marcus Webb of Patterson and Webb Auto Restoration." "Marcus Webb?" one woman said. "He did work on my husband's Jaguar." "He is wonderful. The best in the business," another man agreed. All night people asked about the car and complimented its condition. Each time Victoria made sure to credit Marcus by name. It was the least she could do. Later in the evening, Victoria was surprised to see Marcus himself at the gala. He was wearing a nice suit and talking with a group of people she recognized as serious car collectors. He was not there as staff. He was there as a guest. Their eyes met across the room. Victoria nodded to him with respect. Marcus nodded back. It was a small gesture, but it said everything that needed to be said. She acknowledged his success. He acknowledged her apology. They had both moved on, but there was peace between them now. Victoria realized something important that night. By firing Marcus, she had thought she was punishing him. Instead, she had freed him to become something greater than he could have been in her employ. Her cruelty had accidentally become his liberation. It was a hard lesson to learn. But as Victoria watched Marcus laugh and talk with wealthy collectors who valued his expertise, She understood that some people are meant for more than the roles we assign them. And sometimes the biggest favor we can do for someone is to get out of their way, even if we do it for the wrong reasons. The weeks following the charity gala brought changes that nobody had anticipated. Victoria Hartley kept her word and became a regular client of Patterson and Webb Auto Restoration. Every month, Marcus visited the estate to perform maintenance on all 6 vehicles. The relationship was different now. Victoria treated him with respect, even deference. She listened when he explained what needed to be done, and never questioned his recommendations. Mr. Hartley was always happy to see Marcus. They would talk about cars, about life, about how things had changed. There was an easiness between them that had never existed when Marcus was an employee. Sometimes they had coffee together in the garage while Marcus worked. Just 2 men who appreciated beautiful machines and good conversation. But despite the improved relationship, Marcus never forgot what Victoria had done to him. He was professional and polite, but there was a distance now that could never be bridged. She had shown him who she really was in that moment 6 months ago, and he could not unsee it. Marcus's business continued to grow. The magazine article brought even more clients. His waiting list extended to 8 months. He hired another assistant and expanded the shop. James could hardly believe how much their lives had changed. "Remember when this was just me and 1 lift?" James said one day, looking around at the bustling shop. "Now look at us. 4 employees, 3 lifts, and more work than we can handle." "You took a chance on me when nobody else would," Marcus said. "I will never forget that. Best decision I ever made." "But Marcus, you did this. Your skills, your knowledge, your work ethic. You built this reputation." Marcus felt proud, but he also felt grateful. Grateful that losing his job at the Hartley estate had forced him to discover his true potential. Grateful that his family had supported him through the difficult times. Grateful that he had found work that fulfilled him in ways that driving never had. One afternoon, Marcus was working on a rare Aston Martin when his daughter Sarah stopped by the shop. She was home from college for the weekend. Marcus was always happy to see her, but today she looked troubled. "Dad, can we talk?" she asked. Marcus set down his tools and wiped his hands. "Of course." "What is wrong?" They sat in the small office at the back of the shop. Sarah took a deep breath. "I have been thinking about what happened with Mrs. Hartley, about how she fired you and how hard things were for a while. Sweetheart, that is all in the past now. I know, but it made me realize something. You never gave up. Even when things looked impossible, you kept going. You found a way to turn the worst thing that happened to you into the best thing." Marcus smiled. "I had help. Your mother, you, James, I could not have done it alone. But you did the work. You had the skills and the knowledge, and you used them. I want to be like that, Dad. I want to be someone who does not give up when things get hard." "You already are that person, Sarah. Look at how hard you work at school. Look at how you manage your job and your studies and still find time to help at home." Sarah leaned forward. "I have been offered an internship at an engineering firm in Boston this summer. It pays well and it would be great experience. But it would mean I cannot work at the bookstore or help at home. Sarah, you should take it. This is exactly the kind of opportunity you need." "Are you sure? I know money is better now, but I still want to help." Marcus took his daughter's hands. "Let me tell you something I learned this year. Sometimes the best way to help your family is to invest in your own future. Take that internship. Learn everything you can. Your mother and I will be fine." Sarah hugged her father tightly. "Thank you, Dad, for everything." After Sarah left, Marcus sat in the office for a few minutes thinking about his daughter's bright future. Everything he had been through, all the difficulty and pain, was worth it, because his family was thriving. That was what mattered. Meanwhile, at the Hartley estate, Victoria was having her own realizations. Watching Marcus thrive had forced her to examine other areas of her life, where her pride and prejudices might have caused harm. She started treating the household staff with more respect. She listened more and spoke less. She apologized when she was wrong. The changes were noticed. Maria, the head housekeeper, mentioned it to the other staff one day. "Mrs. Hartley has been different lately," Maria said. "Kinder. She actually thanked me yesterday for organizing her closet." "Maybe firing Marcus made her realize how she treats people," suggested James, the groundskeeper. "Whatever the reason, I will take it," Maria said. "Working here is actually pleasant now." Victoria also reached out to her daughter, who had moved to California. They had been distant for years, but Victoria made an effort to call regularly and actually listen to what her daughter had to say. Slowly, their relationship began to heal. One evening, Mr. Hartley commented on the changes he saw in his wife. "You seem different lately," he said. "Happier, maybe." Victoria considered his words. "I think I am learning to be a better person. It should not have taken firing someone to teach me that lesson, but here we are. We all have moments that change us," Mr. Hartley said gently. "What matters is what we do with those lessons." 3 months after the charity gala, Marcus received an unexpected phone call. It was from a representative of a major automotive museum in California. They had seen his work and read about his expertise. They wanted to hire him as a consultant for their vintage car collection. "We have over 200 vehicles," the representative explained. "Many of them are extremely rare and valuable. We need someone with your knowledge to help us maintain them properly and train our staff." "That sounds like a huge responsibility," Marcus said. "It is. But from everything we have heard, you are the right person for it. We would fly you out once a month for a week at a time. The compensation would be substantial." Marcus asked for time to think about it. That evening he discussed it with Teresa. "It would mean being away from home 1 week a month," he said. "I do not know if I want to do that." "But it sounds like an incredible opportunity," Teresa said. "Working with a museum collection? That is prestigious work, Marcus, I know. But I am happy with what I have here. The shop, our clients, our life. Do I need more than that?" Teresa smiled. "Only you can answer that. But I will support whatever you decide." Marcus thought about it for several days. Finally, he realized something. He did not need the museum job. His success was not about money or prestige. It was about finding work that fulfilled him and building a life he was proud of. He already had that. He called the museum representative back and politely declined. "I am honored by the offer, but my life is here. My business is here. This is where I want to be." The representative was disappointed but understanding. "If you ever change your mind, the offer stands." After Marcus hung up, he felt a sense of peace. He had made the right decision. He was not the same man who had defined himself by his job at the Hartley estate. He was someone who chose his own path now. Word of the museum offer spread through the collector community, even though Marcus had turned it down. Clients were impressed that he had been approached by such a prestigious institution. It only enhanced his reputation further. One day, Marcus received a letter in the mail. It was from Victoria Hartley, written by hand on her personal stationery. "Dear Marcus," it began, "I wanted to write to thank you for your continued service to our family. But more than that, I wanted to tell you how much I have learned from watching your journey this past year. You could have been bitter and angry after what I did to you. Instead, you channeled your energy into building something remarkable. You showed grace and dignity in a situation where you would have been justified in showing anger. I hope that if I ever face a similar challenge, I will handle it with half the strength you showed. Thank you for being an example of how to rise above injustice. With sincere respect and regret, Victoria Hartley." Marcus read the letter several times. It was thoughtful and genuine. He showed it to Teresa that evening. "Are you going to respond?" she asked. "I do not know. Part of me wants to just let it be. The relationship we have now works. I do not need to dig into the past. But maybe she needs you to respond. Maybe she needs to know that you have truly forgiven her." Marcus thought about that. Teresa was right. Holding on to resentment, even quiet resentment, was not good for anyone. He sat down and wrote a simple reply. "Dear Mrs. Hartley, thank you for your letter. I appreciate your words and your honesty. I have learned that sometimes the hardest moments in life push us toward our true path. What happened between us was difficult, but it led me to discover abilities I did not know I had. I have forgiven you, and I hope you have forgiven yourself. Life is too short to carry regrets. Respectfully, Marcus Webb." He mailed the letter the next day and felt a weight lift from his shoulders. True forgiveness meant letting go completely. It meant not holding the past over someone's head, even in small ways. Marcus realized he had been doing that, maintaining a professional distance that was really just a form of punishment. It was time to truly move forward. The next time Marcus visited the Hartley estate for routine maintenance, Victoria was waiting in the garage. She had his letter in her hand. "Thank you for this," she said simply. "You are welcome. I wondered if you might stay for lunch when you finish your work. Mr. Hartley would love to have you join us." Marcus hesitated. Eating lunch with clients crossed a line from professional to personal. but he saw the hope in Victoria's face. This was not about luxury or status. This was about trying to make amends in the only way she knew how. "I would like that," Marcus said. Lunch was pleasant. They sat in the casual dining room, not the formal one Victoria usually used for guests. They talked about cars, about the shop, about Sarah's internship. Victoria and Mr. Hartley asked about Teresa, and seemed genuinely interested in Marcus's family. As Marcus was leaving, Mr. Hartley walked him to his truck. "Thank you for giving her a chance," Mr. Hartley said. "She really is trying to be better." "I can see that," Marcus said. "We all deserve second chances." "You are a good man, Marcus Webb. Always were, always will be." Marcus drove away from the estate feeling something he had not felt in a long time. Closure. Real closure. The wound that Victoria had inflicted was finally healed, not because time had passed, but because both of them had grown from the experience. Months turned into a year. The anniversary of Marcus's firing came and went. He marked it privately, thinking about how much his life had changed. If someone had told him a year ago that he would be running a successful business, would have a growing reputation, would be financially stable and fulfilled in his work, he would not have believed them, but here he was. The shop continued to thrive. Marcus trained his assistants with the same patience someone had once shown him. He shared his knowledge freely, believing that lifting others up did not diminish his own success. Sarah excelled at her internship and was offered a full-time position after graduation. She would be an engineer, just like she had always dreamed. Marcus and Teresa could not have been prouder. Teresa's pottery had evolved from a hobby to a small side business. She sold her pieces at local craft fairs and enjoyed the creative outlet. The stress that had marked her face during Marcus's unemployment was gone, replaced by laugh lines and contentment. One evening, Marcus and James were closing up the shop after a long day. They stood outside looking at their sign with pride. "You know what I realized today?" James said. "We are doing exactly what we are supposed to be doing." "This is our purpose," Marcus nodded. "I think you are right. Funny how life works out sometimes. Not so funny when you are going through it, though. Those weeks after you got fired, when things were so uncertain, that was scary." "It was. But it taught me something important. Your worth is not determined by how other people treat you. It is determined by what you do with the opportunities you are given, even when those opportunities come disguised as disasters." James clapped Marcus on the shoulder. "That is deep, my friend. But true." They locked up and went home to their families, ready to do it all again tomorrow. Victoria Hartley continued to be a client, and slowly became something like a friend. She recommended Marcus to everyone she knew. She spoke about him with respect and admiration. She never tried to diminish his success or take credit for it. If anything, she made sure people knew that Marcus had built his reputation on his own, despite obstacles that included her own poor judgment. The Hartley vehicles never looked better. Under Marcus's regular care, each car ran perfectly and maintained its value. Victoria and Mr. Hartley often commented that they should have appreciated Marcus more when he worked for them full-time. They understood now that having someone with his expertise had been a privilege, not a right. 2 years after the firing, Marcus received an award from the Connecticut Automotive Restoration Association. It recognized his contributions to the preservation of vintage automobiles and his mentorship of young technicians. The ceremony was held at a nice hotel, and Marcus brought his whole family. Victoria and Mr. Hartley attended as well, sitting in the audience and applauding loudly when Marcus's name was called. After the ceremony, Victoria approached Marcus and his family. "Congratulations," she said warmly. "This award is well deserved." "Thank you for coming," Marcus said, genuinely meaning it. "I wanted to be here. I wanted to see you honored for your incredible work." Victoria turned to Teresa and Sarah. "You must be so proud of him." "We are," Teresa said. "We always have been." As the Hartleys walked away, Sarah leaned close to her father. "You did it, Dad. You really did it." Marcus looked around the room at the other award recipients, at the people who had recognized his skills and knowledge, at his family who had supported him through everything. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, from that terrible morning in the Hartley garage to this moment of recognition and achievement. "We did it," he corrected gently, "all of us together." That night, driving home with his award in the back seat, Marcus reflected on the strange path his life had taken. Victoria Hartley had kicked him out, had treated him cruelly, had tried to diminish his worth. She had meant to hurt him, to punish him for something he had not done. But she had actually given him a gift, though she had not meant to. She had forced him out of a comfortable but limiting situation. She had pushed him to discover abilities he had not known he possessed. She had inadvertently set him on a path to success and fulfillment that would have been impossible if he had remained her driver. Marcus did not thank Victoria for firing him. That would be too much, but he no longer resented her for it either. He had taken her worst and turned it into his best. He had transformed rejection into opportunity, defeat into victory, an ending into a beginning. In the end, Victoria's regret was real and deserved. She had learned important lessons about how we treat people and how our actions have consequences. She had grown as a person, even if that growth came at the cost of losing someone valuable. But Marcus's story was about more than Victoria's regret. It was about resilience and self-discovery. It was about finding the courage to see your own worth even when others do not. It was about taking the broken pieces of your life and building something beautiful from them. Marcus Webb had been kicked out of a job, but he had found his true calling. He had been dismissed and diminished, but he had risen and thrived. His mastery of his craft had been there all along. It just took losing everything to find it. And that, in its own way, was the greatest victory of all. Not because Victoria regretted what she had done, though she did, but because Marcus had discovered that his value was never dependent on her recognition. It had always been there, waiting for him to claim it. As Marcus pulled into his driveway that night, his award on the seat beside him and his family chatting happily about the ceremony, he realized something profound. The best revenge is not bitterness or anger. It is living well. It is becoming the person you were always meant to be. Victoria Hartley had kicked him out and tried to break him, but Marcus Webb had refused to stay broken. He had rebuilt himself into something stronger, something better, something truly his own, and in doing so, he had won. Not by making Victoria lose, but by refusing to let her actions define him. He had taken control of his own story and written an ending far better than anyone could have predicted. That was mastery. Not just of cars, but of life itself, and no one could ever take that away from him. The stars shone bright over Connecticut that night. Inside the Webb house there was laughter and love and pride. Outside, Marcus's truck sat in the driveway, the Patterson and Webb logo visible in the streetlight. Tomorrow would bring new projects, new challenges, new opportunities to use the skills Marcus had spent a lifetime developing. But tonight was for celebration, for family, for recognizing how far they had all come. Marcus Webb had been knocked down, but he had gotten back up. He had been dismissed, but he had claimed his worth. He had been told he was not good enough, but he had proven that he was better than anyone had imagined. That was his story. Not a story of revenge or bitterness, but a story of triumph. A story of finding your true path even when you are pushed off your planned one. A story of discovering that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the beginning of your best chapter. And as Marcus lay down to sleep that night, his wife beside him and his daughter's laughter echoing from her room, he felt something he had not felt in his old life at the Hartley estate. He felt free, free to be himself, free to use his gifts fully, free to build the life he wanted rather than the life someone else had designed for him. Victoria Hartley had regretted her actions, and that was good. Growth and regret meant she was learning to be better. But Marcus Webb had done something far more important. He had forgiven, moved forward, and built something magnificent from the ashes of his old life. That was the real ending to this story. Not bitterness, but freedom. Not revenge, but redemption. Not defeat, but victory in its purest, most meaningful form. And that victory belonged entirely to Marcus Webb, the master craftsman who had always been there, just waiting for his moment to shine.